pill organizer slipped from my hands at 3 a.m., scattering Mum's medications across the kitchen floor like confetti at the world's most depressing party. I dropped to my knees, scrambling to separate the blood pressure pills from the anti-anxiety meds in the dim light when I heard her calling from upstairs. "Debbie, Debbie, where are you?" My name is Deborah Phillips, and for the past 10 years I've been the ghost daughter, the one who stayed behind while everyone else got to live their actual lives. "Coming, Mom," I called back, shoving pills into their compartments with shaking hands. Tuesday's dose mixed with Wednesday's. I'd have to start over. By the time I reached her bedroom, Mum was sitting on the edge of her bed, looking lost. At 66, she still had traces of the beauty that made Dad fall for her, but dementia was stealing pieces of her every day. "I can't find the bathroom," she whispered, embarrassed. "It's right here, Mom." I guided her the 3 steps to her ensuite, the same path we'd walked together hundreds of times. "Do you need help?" She shook her head, still clinging to whatever dignity she had left. I waited outside the door, listening for any sounds of trouble, my bare feet cold against the hardwood floor. This was my life now, had been for a decade. While my older sister Talia built her perfect suburban empire in Connecticut with her husband Drake and their daughter Willow, I'd transformed from a promising marketing coordinator into a full-time caregiver. My friends had stopped inviting me out years ago. My last relationship ended when I chose Mum's doctor appointment over his birthday dinner. "I'm okay," Mum called through the door. "Take your time." My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Talia. "How's Mum doing? Drake says we should talk about long-term care options soon." I deleted it without responding. Talia's version of checking in always came with an agenda. The toilet flushed, and I helped Mum back to bed, tucking her blanket around her shoulders. "Will you stay until I fall asleep?" she asked. "Of course." I settled into the chair beside her bed, the same chair I'd been sleeping in more nights than not lately. Mum's breathing evened out within minutes, but I stayed awake, watching her chest rise and fall, terrified of the moment it might stop. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. Dr. Martinez's name flashed on the screen. "Deborah, I'm sorry to call so early, but I wanted to catch you before my rounds." I stepped into the hallway, closing Mum's door softly. "What's wrong?" "The test results came back. Your mother's condition is progressing faster than we hoped. She's going to need round-the-clock care soon. Professional care. The kind that costs..." "How much?" $8,000 to $12,000 a month. Maybe more, depending on the facility. The number hit me like a physical blow. Mum's savings wouldn't last 6 months at that rate. "There are state programs," Dr. Martinez continued, "but the waiting lists are long and the quality..." "I understand." My voice sounded hollow even to me. "Thank you for calling." I hung up and slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor staring at nothing. 10 years of my life, and it was all about to crumble anyway. Mum would end up in some understaffed state facility where they'd park her in front of a TV until she died. The phone rang again. Talia's name this time. "Hey, Debbie." Her voice had that fake bright quality she used when she wanted something. "I know it's early, but I've been thinking about Mum a lot lately." "Have you?" "Drake and I were discussing it last night. We think it might be time to have a serious conversation about her future, about what's best for everyone." Something in her tone made my stomach clench. "What kind of conversation?" "Well, I was thinking I could come visit next week, bring Drake, maybe get a lawyer's perspective on things, you know, to make sure we're handling everything properly." A lawyer. Talia wanted to bring a lawyer to discuss Mum's care. "Why would we need a lawyer, Talia?" "Oh, just to make sure all the paperwork is in order. Power of attorney documents, that sort of thing. I mean, you've been handling everything alone for so long, and I just want to make sure nothing falls through the cracks." The way she said alone made it sound like an accusation. I've been handling things just fine. Of course you have, sweetie, but this is getting complicated now, isn't it? With the medical costs and everything. How did she know about the medical costs? I hadn't told her about Dr. Martinez's call. I'll call you back, Talia. Wait, Debbie. I hung up and stared at the phone in my hand, my heart pounding. After 10 years of barely checking in, my sister suddenly wanted to have a serious conversation about Mom's future with a lawyer. Something was very, very wrong. Talia arrived on Thursday with an entourage that made our modest house feel like a crime scene. Her husband, Drake, emerged from their rental SUV looking like he'd rather be anywhere else, while a sharp-dressed man in an expensive suit followed behind them, briefcase in hand. "Debbie!" Talia rushed toward me with arms outstretched, her designer heels clicking against the driveway. "You look tired, honey. Are you getting enough sleep?" The hug felt like being embraced by a python. Over her shoulder, I watched the man in the suit studying our house like he was appraising it. "Who's your friend?" I asked, pulling back. "Oh, this is Pablo Vasquez. He's been helping us with some legal matters." She waved dismissively. "Nothing dramatic, just making sure we understand all our options." Pablo stepped forward with a practiced smile. "Miss Phillips, I've heard so much about your dedication to your mother. It's truly admirable." Something about the way he said dedication made my skin crawl. "Where's Mom?" Talia asked, already pushing past me into the house. "Napping? She had a rough night." "Perfect. That gives us time to talk." Talia settled onto the couch like she owned the place, patting the cushion beside her. "Sit, Debbie. We have so much to catch up on." Drake positioned himself by the window, arms crossed, while Pablo took the chair across from us, pulling out a legal pad. "So," Talia began, "tell me everything. How's Mum's health? What are the doctors saying? What kind of expenses are we looking at?" "We? Well, yes, she's my mother too." Talia's smile never wavered. "I know I haven't been as hands-on as you, but that doesn't mean I don't care." "Hands-on!" I let the words hang in the air. "When was the last time you visited, Talia?" "That's not fair. You know how busy things have been with Willow's school and Drake's practice. But we're here now, aren't we?" Pablo cleared his throat. "Perhaps we could focus on the current situation. I understand your mother's care needs are becoming more complex." "How would you know that?" "Well, naturally, when family members are concerned about a loved one's welfare, they research the best options available." His pen hovered over the legal pad. "Have you considered residential care facilities?" "I've considered everything, and the financial implications." Pablo's voice was gentle, but his eyes were calculating. "I imagine the costs are becoming challenging." Talia leaned forward. "Debbie, honey, you don't have to carry this burden alone anymore. That's why we're here." "What burden?" "Taking care of Mom, managing her finances, making all these difficult decisions by yourself." Talia reached for my hand. "It's too much for one person." I pulled my hand away. "I'm managing fine." "Are you, though?" Drake spoke for the first time, his voice flat. "Because from what we've heard, you've been struggling, financially, emotionally." "What exactly have you heard?" Pablo consulted his notes. "Well, there are concerns about your mother's medication management, some missed appointments, questions about whether she's receiving adequate nutrition." "Who told you that?" "It doesn't matter who," Talia said quickly. "What matters is that we're family, and we need to work together to make sure Mum gets the best possible care." "The best possible care," I repeated. "Right? And where were you when she was diagnosed? When she forgot my name for the first time? When she wandered out of the house at midnight in her nightgown?" "That's exactly what I'm talking about." Talia's voice took on that patronizing tone I remembered from childhood. "You're clearly overwhelmed. You're angry, you're exhausted, and that's affecting your judgment. My judgment is fine. Is it? Pablo leaned forward. Because taking care of someone with dementia requires more than just good intentions. It requires resources, professional support, proper legal documentation. What kind of legal documentation? Power of attorney for starters, healthcare directives, financial oversight. Pablo's pen moved across the page. Has your mother executed any of these documents recently? The question felt like a trap. Why? Because if something happens to you, Debbie, Talia said softly, who's going to take care of Mom? You don't have a backup plan. You don't have the resources for professional care. You're one emergency away from a complete crisis. So what are you suggesting? Talia and Pablo exchanged a look. We think it might be time to consider a guardianship arrangement, Pablo said. Someone with the legal authority and financial resources to ensure your mother receives proper care. Someone like Talia. I have the stability, Debbie, the resources, the support system. Talia's voice was gentle, but her eyes were hard. You've done an amazing job, but you're burning out. Anyone can see that. I'm not burning out. Look at yourself, Drake said bluntly. When's the last time you left this house for more than a grocery run? When's the last time you had a conversation with someone who wasn't a doctor or a pharmacist? Heat flooded my cheeks. That's my choice. Is it? Talia asked. Or is it just what happened because you didn't have any other options? Before I could answer, footsteps creaked on the stairs. Mum appeared in the doorway, her hair dishevelled, looking confused and frightened. There are strangers in my house, she said, her voice shaking. I stood up quickly. It's okay, Mum. This is Talia, your daughter. Remember? Mum's eyes moved from face to face, settling on Pablo with obvious distrust. I don't know him. He's just a friend, Talia said, rising from the couch with a bright smile. Hi, Mum. It's so good to see you. But Mum had already turned away, reaching for my hand. Debbie, I don't like this. Make them leave. Mum, they're family. I said, make them leave. Her voice rose to a shout, and she gripped my hand so tightly it hurt. Pablo was writing furiously on his legal pad. That night, after they'd gone to their hotel, I was cleaning up the dinner dishes when I found Talia's purse on the kitchen counter. She'd left it behind, probably on purpose. I shouldn't have looked inside, but I did. The documents were right on top, impossible to miss. Emergency guardianship petition was printed in bold letters across the header. My name appeared throughout the pages, along with words like unstable, isolated, and unable to provide adequate care. They weren't here to help. They were here to take Mom away from me. The courthouse smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. I sat at a wooden table that had probably witnessed 1,000 family disasters, watching Pablo arrange his papers with the precision of a surgeon preparing for an amputation. All rise for the Honourable Judge Sebastian Jackson. The judge was younger than I'd expected, maybe late 50s, with kind eyes that made me hope he might actually listen. Pablo had warned me this would be a formality. Emergency guardianship hearings usually went fast. Your Honour, Pablo began, his voice smooth as silk, we're here today because of a tragic situation. Mrs. Nora Phillips, a 66-year-old woman suffering from advanced dementia, is currently under the sole care of her younger daughter, Deborah Phillips, who is simply overwhelmed by the responsibility. I wanted to stand up and scream, but my court-appointed attorney, a tired-looking woman named Sarah who'd met me 15 minutes ago, put a restraining hand on my arm. The petitioner, Talia Carter, is Mrs. Phillips's elder daughter. She has the financial resources, family support, and emotional stability necessary to ensure her mother receives proper professional care. Pablo gestured toward Talia, who sat ramrod straight in a navy suit that probably cost more than I spent on groceries in 3 months. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, the picture of concerned sisterly love. Your Honour, if I may present evidence of the current caregiver's inability to provide adequate care. Pablo pulled out a folder thick with papers. Exhibit A, medical records showing missed appointments and inconsistent medication management. Exhibit B, financial records indicating the depletion of Mrs. Phillips's savings under the current arrangement. Exhibit C, testimony from neighbours regarding concerning incidents. What neighbours? I whispered to Sarah. She shrugged helplessly. I'd like to call Talia Carter to the stand, Pablo announced. Talia walked to the witness box like she was accepting an award. She placed her hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth with the conviction of someone who'd rewritten history so many times she believed her own lies. Mrs. Carter, can you describe your relationship with your mother? She's always been my best friend, Talia said, her voice breaking slightly. Growing up, I was the one she confided in, the one she trusted with important decisions. It breaks my heart to see her in this condition. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. And your relationship with your sister? I love Debbie dearly, but she's always been fragile. Even as children, she struggled with anxiety, with making friends. When our father died, she became almost obsessively attached to our mother. Objection, Sarah said weakly. Relevance? I'll allow it, Judge Jackson said. Continue, Mrs. Carter. Over the past 10 years, Debbie has isolated herself completely. She has no job, no relationships, no life outside of caring for Mom. At first I thought it was admirable, but now I see it's become unhealthy for both of them. Can you give specific examples? Last month, Mum called me crying because Debbie had screamed at her for forgetting to take her pills. 2 weeks ago, a neighbour called to say Mum was found wandering the street in her nightgown while Debbie was asleep. And just yesterday, when we tried to visit, Mum became agitated and confused because Debbie has created such an insular environment. Each word was a knife between my ribs. The worst part was how she mixed truth with lies so seamlessly that even I started to doubt myself. What kind of care are you proposing for your mother? Sunrise Manor. It's a premier memory care facility about 20 minutes from my home. She'd have round-the-clock professional care, social activities, proper medical supervision. Most importantly, she'd be close to family who can visit regularly. And the financial arrangements? I'm prepared to cover all costs personally. My husband Drake and I have been blessed financially, and we consider this our responsibility. Pablo nodded solemnly. No further questions? Sarah stood up for cross-examination, shuffling through her notes. Mrs. Carter, when was the last time you visited your mother before this week? Talia's composure flickered. It's been challenging with work and family obligations. How long, Mrs. Carter? About 18 months. 18 months? And before that? Perhaps 2 years. So in the past decade, while your sister was providing daily care, you visited your mother fewer than 5 times. I stayed in constant phone contact. How often did you call? Talia's jaw tightened. Every few weeks, sometimes monthly. And during these calls, did your mother ever express dissatisfaction with Deborah's care? Mum's condition makes it difficult for her to communicate clearly. That's not what I asked. Did she ever complain about Deborah? No, but did she ever ask you to take over her care? Not directly, but thank you. No further questions. Pablo called Drake next, who testified about their financial stability and commitment to family values. Then came the surprise witness, Mrs. Henderson from next door, who'd apparently been keeping a detailed log of every time she'd seen Mom in the yard, looking confused or heard raised voices from our house. When it was my turn to testify, my legs felt like jelly. Miss Phillips, Pablo began, how many hours of sleep do you get per night? It varies. On average, 4 or 5 hours. And when was the last time you left your mother alone for more than 2 hours? I don't leave her alone. Never. Not for long periods. When was the last time you had a vacation? A weekend away? Even a full day to yourself? The questions kept coming, each one designed to paint me as a martyr who'd lost all perspective. Pablo made my devotion sound like mental illness, my sacrifices like symptoms of an unhealthy obsession. Your Honor, Pablo concluded, this is a woman who has confused self-sacrifice with proper care. She's isolated, exhausted, and frankly, unable to see that her mother needs more than she can provide. Judge Jackson looked at me with something that might have been pity. Miss Phillips, do you have anything to add? I stood up, my voice barely above a whisper. She's my mother. I love her. I've never hurt her or neglected her. Everything I've done has been for her. I'm sure it has, the judge said gently, but love isn't always enough, is it? The gavel came down like a gunshot. I'll review all evidence and render my decision tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. As the courtroom emptied, Talia approached me, her mask of concern slipping just enough to reveal the triumph underneath. This doesn't have to be adversarial, Debbie. We can work together. Oh, to hell, she smiled. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You're not thinking clearly. That night, my friend Jordan came over with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. This is insane, she said, stabbing at her lo mein with unnecessary violence. Anyone who knows you'd die before you'd hurt your mum. Apparently that's the problem. I'm too devoted. It's unhealthy, says the woman who visited twice in 10 years. We sat in silence for a while, picking at our food. There has to be something, Jordan said finally. Some way to fight this. Before I could answer, there was a soft knock at the door. I opened it to find Willow, Talia's 16-year-old daughter, standing on my porch with a backpack slung over her shoulder. Aunt Debbie? Her voice was small, uncertain. Can I talk to you? I let her in, noting how she avoided eye contact. Your mum's looking for you. I know. I told her I was going for a walk. Willow sat down heavily on the couch. I heard what happened in court today. Willow, she's lying. The words came out in a rush. Mum doesn't care about Grandma. She never has. All she talks about is the house, the money, what she's going to do with it all when... She trailed off. When what? When Grandma dies, Willow's eyes filled with tears. She doesn't want to take care of her. She wants to put her somewhere and forget about her, just like she's always done. Your mother loves your grandmother. No, she doesn't, but you do. Everyone can see that except the stupid judge. Willow wiped her nose with her sleeve. There has to be something you can do, some way to stop her. I looked at this kid, so young, so angry at the injustice of it all, and felt something shift inside me. Maybe there was. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Judge Jackson's pitying expression and heard Pablo's voice painting me as some kind of delusional caretaker. At 3 a.m, I gave up and went to check on Mom. She was awake, staring at the ceiling. Can't sleep either, I asked, settling into the chair beside her bed. I had the strangest dream, she said, her voice clearer than it had been in weeks. There were people in our house, strangers. They wanted to take me somewhere. My heart clenched. It was just a dream, Mum. Was it? She turned to look at me, and for a moment her eyes were sharp, focused. Debbie, I need to tell you something important. What is it? I'm scared, not of dying. I'm scared of being forgotten, of becoming a burden that people just manage. You're not a burden. Promise me something. Her hand found mine in the darkness. Promise me you won't let them put me somewhere where I'm just a number, where no one knows that I used to paint watercolours, or that I made the best chocolate chip cookies in the neighbourhood, or that I sang you to sleep every night when you were little. I promise. There's something else. She squeezed my hand. In my jewellery box behind the mirror. There's an envelope. I put it there last year when I was having one of my good days. I wanted to make sure. Her voice trailed off, and I could see her slipping back into the fog. What's in the envelope, Mom? But she was already closing her eyes, her breathing evening out. I waited until she was asleep, then crept to her dresser. The jewellery box was an old wooden one Dad had given her for their anniversary. I lifted the mirror panel and found a manila envelope tucked behind it. Inside were legal documents, notarized and official-looking. At the top of the first page, in bold letters, medical power of attorney. My hands shook as I read. The document was dated 14 months ago, during one of Mum's brief periods of clarity. She'd appointed me as her healthcare proxy, giving me full authority to make medical decisions on her behalf. But that wasn't all. There was also a letter, written in Mum's careful handwriting, to whom it may concern. I am writing this while I still have my faculties, knowing that my condition will worsen. I have watched my daughter Deborah sacrifice everything to care for me with love, patience, and dignity. She knows my wishes better than anyone. If something happens to me, if I can no longer speak for myself, I want Deborah to have the authority to make decisions about my care. Not because she's perfect, but because she's the only one who sees me as a person, not a problem to be solved. Nora Phillips. I clutched the papers to my chest, hardly daring to breathe. This changed everything. At 8:30 a.m., I called Sarah, my court-appointed attorney. I need to see you before court. I have new evidence. What kind of evidence? The kind that's going to end this case. 30 minutes later, I was sitting in Sarah's cramped office, watching her read through the documents with growing excitement. This is incredible, she said. Your mother executed these during a period of mental competency. The notarization is proper. The witnesses are valid. Deborah, this gives you complete authority over her medical care. What does that mean for the guardianship? It means Pablo's case just fell apart. The judge can't appoint a guardian for someone who's already designated their healthcare proxy. Your mother made her choice when she was legally capable of doing so. At 9 a.m. sharp, we walked into the courtroom. Pablo was already at his table looking confident. Talia sat behind him, checking her phone with the air of someone who'd already won. Your Honour, Judge Jackson began, I've reviewed all the evidence presented yesterday, and I'm prepared to render my decision. Your Honour, Sarah interrupted, standing quickly, I apologise, but we have additional evidence that's directly relevant to this case. Pablo frowned. Objection. Discovery is closed. This evidence was only discovered last night, Your Honour. It's a legal document executed by Mrs. Nora Phillips herself. Judge Jackson gestured for us to approach. Sarah handed him the medical power of attorney, and I watched his expression change as he read. Where did you find this? He asked. Mrs. Phillips left it for her daughter to find, Your Honour. She hid it in her jewellery box with specific instructions. Pablo was reading over the judge's shoulder, his face growing paler by the second. Your Honour, he said, we'd like to request a recess to examine this document. No need, Judge Jackson said. The notarization is clear. The date is well before Mrs. Phillips' diagnosis became severe, and the language is unambiguous. He looked up at me. Miss Phillips, were you aware that your mother had executed this document? No, Your Honour. She told me about it last night during one of her lucid moments. And you understand what this means? It means my mother chose me to make her healthcare decisions. She trusted me with her life. Judge Jackson nodded slowly. Mr. Vasquez, this document supersedes any guardianship petition. Mrs. Phillips has already designated her healthcare proxy. Your Honour, we'd like to challenge the validity. On what grounds? The document is properly executed, witnessed and notarized, unless you're suggesting fraud. Pablo's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Behind him, Talia had gone rigid in her seat. "Your Honour," I said, "I'd like to make a statement." "Go ahead. My mother didn't just give me power of attorney, she gave me a responsibility. She trusted me to make sure she's treated with dignity, that she's cared for by people who see her as a person, not a patient. That's exactly what I intend to do." Judge Jackson banged his gavel. "The petition for emergency guardianship is denied. Miss Phillips retains full authority as her mother's healthcare proxy." The courtroom erupted. Pablo was frantically shuffling papers, trying to salvage something from the wreckage. Talia sat frozen, her perfect composure finally cracking. But I barely heard the chaos around me. All I could think about was Mum's voice in the darkness. "Promise me you won't let them put me somewhere where I'm just a number." As we filed out of the courtroom, Talia caught up with me in the hallway. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You think you've won something, but you have no idea what you've just done." "I've honoured our mother's wishes." "You've destroyed this family." "No, Talia, you did that the moment you decided Mum was worth more to you dead than alive." Her face went white. "How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth. You haven't cared about Mum in years. You only showed up when you realised there might be money involved." "You're delusional." "Am I? Then explain why you brought a lawyer before you brought flowers. Explain why you've been researching her finances instead of her condition. Explain why your first instinct was to take her away from the one person who's actually been taking care of her." Talia's mask finally slipped completely. "You want to play this game? Fine. But don't think for 1 second that I'm going to let you walk away with everything while I get nothing. There won't be anything left to walk away with." "Ah, what's that supposed to mean?" I smiled, and for the first time in years, it felt genuine. "It means I'm about to make sure Mom gets the best care money can buy. All of it." The look on Talia's face was worth every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every moment of doubt I'd endured. She'd wanted a war. Now, she was going to get one. The phone rang at 7 a.m. the next morning. Talia's name flashed on the screen, but I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. On the 4th call, I answered. "What do you want, Talia?" "We need to talk, face to face." "I think we've said everything we need to say." "Please, Debbie, just give me an hour. I'm coming over." She hung up before I could refuse. Mum was having breakfast when Talia arrived, alone this time. No Drake, no Pablo, just my sister looking like she hadn't slept in days. "Hi, Mum," Talia said softly, sitting across from her at the kitchen table. Mum looked up from her oatmeal, confused. "Do I know you?" The question hit Talia like a slap. I'm your daughter, Talia." "I only have one daughter, Debbie." Mum reached for my hand. "She takes good care of me." Talia's composure cracked for just a moment before she rebuilt it. "Of course she does." After I got Mum settled in the living room with her morning shows, Talia cornered me in the kitchen. "Okay, you won," she said. "Congratulations! You get to keep playing martyr. Is that what you think this is about? Isn't it? You've always needed to be the victim, the one who sacrifices everything for everyone else. It makes you feel important. You don't know anything about what I feel. I know you're about to make a huge mistake." Talia sat down at the table, her voice taking on a business-like tone. "You can't afford the kind of care Mom needs, not long term. You'll burn through her savings in 6 months, maybe less. That's not your concern anymore, but it could be our solution." She leaned forward. "What if we work together? Split the costs, split the responsibilities. I could take Mum for half the year, you could take her for the other half. We could both contribute financially. So you could get your hands on half the estate. So we could both make sure Mum gets proper care without bankrupting anyone." Talia's voice was reasonable, persuasive. Think about it, Debbie. You could have a life again. You could travel, date, get a job. You're only 38. You don't have to sacrifice everything. I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm choosing. Are you? Or are you just too scared to live your own life? The words stung because there was a grain of truth in them, but I pushed the doubt away. The answer is no. Fine. Talia stood up, her mask slipping again. But when the money runs out and you're forced to put her in some state-run hellhole, don't come crying to me. I won't have to. What's that supposed to mean? Before I could answer, the front door opened and Willow walked in, still in her school uniform. Willow! Talia spun around. What are you doing here? You should be in class. I had a free period. Willow dropped her backpack by the door and went straight to Mum, kissing her cheek. Hi, Grandma. Hello, sweetheart, Mum said, her face lighting up. You're so pretty. Are you my granddaughter? Yes, I am. Talia watched this interaction with something like pain in her eyes. Willow, we need to go. Your father's expecting us for lunch. Actually, I was hoping I could stay here for a while. Aunt Debbie said she'd help me with my college application essays. I hadn't said any such thing, but I played along. Of course, we can work on them this afternoon. Willow, get your things, now. Talia's voice had an edge to it. Why are you being like this? Willow asked. You used to love visiting Grandma. That was before, Talia caught herself. Things are complicated right now. Because you tried to take Grandma away from Aunt Debbie? The question hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Who told you that? Talia's voice was dangerously quiet. I heard you and Dad talking. You said Aunt Debbie was crazy, that she was wasting Grandma's money, that you needed to secure the assets before it was too late. Talia's face went white. You misunderstood. Did I? Because it sounded like you cared more about the inheritance than about Grandma. That's enough. Talia grabbed Willow's arm. We're leaving. Let go of me. Willow jerked away. I'm not going anywhere with you. You're 16 years old. You don't get to make that choice. Actually, she does. I stepped between them. Willow, you're welcome to stay here as long as you want. You can't keep my daughter from me. I'm not keeping her from anyone. She's making her own choice. Talia looked between Willow and me, her face a mask of fury and desperation. You think you're so noble, don't you? Taking care of Mom, protecting Willow. But you're just a bitter, lonely woman who can't stand the thought of anyone else being happy. Mum, stop. Willow's voice was quiet but firm. Just stop. You don't understand what's at stake here. I understand perfectly. Willow crossed her arms. You want Grandma's money. You've always wanted it. That's why you never visited, why you never called. You were just waiting for her to die so you could cash in. How dare you speak to me like that? How dare you treat Grandma like a bank account? Talia raised her hand as if to slap Willow, then caught herself. The moment stretched between them, ugly and raw. Fine, Talia said finally. Stay here with your precious aunt, but don't come running to me when this all falls apart. She stormed toward the door, then turned back one last time. You know what the funny thing is, Debbie? You think you've won something, but you've just trapped yourself in a cage. You'll spend the rest of Mum's life watching her fade away, and when she's gone, you'll have nothing. No money, no family, no future. Just the satisfaction of knowing you were right. At least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. Will you? Because I think you're going to realize that martyrdom isn't as satisfying as you thought it would be. The door slammed behind her, rattling the windows. Willow and I stood in the sudden silence, both of us shaking. I'm sorry, she said. I shouldn't have said those things about Mom. Were they true? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. She and Dad have been fighting about money for months. She kept saying Grandma was sitting on a fortune while you were playing house with her. She said it wasn't fair that you got to control everything just because you never left home. And what do you think? I think you're the only one who actually loves her. Willow wiped her nose with her sleeve. Everyone else just sees dollar signs. That evening, after Willow had gone home to face whatever consequences awaited her, I sat with Mom as she got ready for bed. That girl who was here today, Mum said, as I helped her into her nightgown. She seemed familiar. That was Willow, your granddaughter. She's very sweet, but the other woman... Mum frowned. She seemed angry about something. She was, but it's not your problem to worry about. Are you sure? Because she looked at me like I'd done something wrong. I tucked the blankets around Mum's shoulders, my heart breaking a little more. You haven't done anything wrong. You're perfect just the way you are. Promise? I promise. But as I turned off the light and settled into my chair for another night of watching over her, I couldn't shake Talia's words. Was I really doing this for Mum, or was I doing it to prove something to myself? And if the money ran out, if I couldn't give Mum the care she deserved, would my righteousness be worth anything at all? The phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. The offer stands. Call me when you're ready to be reasonable. I deleted the message without responding, but I didn't delete the doubt that came with it. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in the offices of Sunrise Manor, the most expensive memory care facility in the state. The director, Tricia Thornton, spread glossy brochures across her mahogany desk like she was dealing cards. As you can see, we offer a comprehensive approach to dementia care, she said, her voice warm and professional. 24-hour nursing staff, specialized therapy programs, gourmet meals prepared by our in-house chef. The photos showed elegant rooms with hardwood floors and French doors opening onto manicured gardens. Residents smiled as they painted watercolors or tended to flower boxes. It looked like a luxury resort, not a place where people went to die. What's the monthly cost? I asked. For our premium level of care, it's $14,000 per month. That includes everything: medical supervision, activities, meals, laundry, even hairdressing services. $14,000. Mum's entire savings would last maybe 8 months. I know it seems expensive, Tricia continued, but when you consider the level of personalized attention your mother would receive... I'll take it. Tricia blinked. I'm sorry? I said I'll take it. When can she move in? Well, there's usually a waiting list, but we happen to have had a cancellation. She could move in next week if you'd like. Perfect. And the financial arrangements? I pulled out the checkbook for Mum's account. I'll pay the first year up front. Tricia's eyebrows shot up. That's $168,000. I'm aware. Most families prefer to pay monthly. Most families don't have my mother's resources. I started writing the check, my hand steady despite the magnitude of what I was doing. She deserves the best care available, and money shouldn't be an obstacle. As I handed over the check, my phone buzzed. A text from Talia. We need to talk. It's about Mum's finances. I turned the phone face down and smiled at Tricia. When can we schedule the intake appointment? The call came that evening while I was helping Mum with her dinner. Deborah, this is Pablo Vasquez. I think we need to have a conversation. I don't think we do. I've been reviewing your mother's financial records. There's been some unusual activity, such as a large withdrawal from her savings account, $168,000. That's not unusual, that's healthcare. For what purpose? That's none of your business. Actually, it is. As your mother's family, Talia has a right to know how her mother's assets are being managed. Talia has no rights here. The court made that very clear. The court gave you medical power of attorney, not financial guardianship. If there's evidence of financial abuse... Financial abuse? I laughed. I'm spending her money on her care. That's literally what it's for. $14,000 a month for a nursing home seems excessive when there are perfectly adequate facilities for half that cost. Adequate isn't good enough for my mother? Miss Phillips, I'm going to be very direct with you. If you continue down this path, there will be nothing left for anyone. Your mother's estate will be completely depleted. Good. The silence on the other end stretched for several seconds. I'm sorry, did you say good? I said good. Every penny she has should go to her care. That's what she would want. And what about your sister? What about your niece's college fund? What about them? Where were they when Mom needed daily care? Where were they when she was scared and confused and calling out in the middle of the night? Miss Phillips, you're making a mistake that you'll regret for the rest of your life. The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner. I hung up and immediately called Sunrise Manor. Tricia, it's Deborah Phillips. I'd like to add some additional services to my mother's care plan. Of course. What did you have in mind? Everything. Private nursing, daily physical therapy, art therapy, music therapy. Whatever you offer, I want her to have it. That would bring the monthly cost to approximately $18,000. Done. Miss Phillips, are you sure? That's a significant financial commitment. My mother raised 2 daughters, worked as a teacher for 30 years, and saved every penny she could so she'd never be a burden to anyone. She deserves to spend her final years surrounded by beauty and kindness, not counting pennies. I, of course, will arrange everything. After I hung up, I found Mom in the living room, staring out the window at the garden she used to tend. Mom, I have some news. You're going to be moving to a new place, somewhere beautiful, where people will take care of you. She turned to me with those clear, frightened eyes. Are you coming with me? I'll visit every day, I promise. But you won't live there. No, sweetheart, but you'll have nurses and friends and activities. You'll have everything you need. Will I remember you? The question broke my heart. I don't know, but I'll remember you. That's enough. She nodded slowly, then reached for my hand. The angry woman who was here. She wanted to take me away from you. Yes, but you didn't let her. No, I didn't. Good. Mum squeezed my hand. You're a good daughter, Debbie, better than I deserved. You deserve everything, Mom, everything. The next morning, Talia showed up at my door with Drake in tow. Both of them looked like they'd been up all night. We know what you're doing, Talia said without preamble. Taking care of our mother? Stealing her inheritance. There is no inheritance. There's just a woman who needs care and money to pay for it. Drake stepped forward. Deborah, be reasonable. You're talking about spending nearly $250,000 a year. Your mother could live for another decade. Then I'll spend $2.5 million. Money that should go to her family after she's gone. Her family? I laughed. You mean the daughter who visited twice in 10 years and the son-in-law who's never even sent a birthday card? We're still family, Talia said. We still have rights. You have the right to visit her at Sunrise Manor. That's it. This is insane. You're going to bankrupt her out of spite. I'm going to give her the life she deserves. If that bankrupts her, so be it. Talia's face was red with fury. You think you're so noble, but you're just as selfish as you always were. You'd rather burn everything down than share it. There's nothing to share. There's only a woman who needs care, and a daughter who's going to make sure she gets it. When the money runs out, it won't. When it does, Talia continued, and you have to move her to some state facility, remember this moment. Remember that you chose revenge over family. I chose Mom over money. If you can't understand the difference, that says everything about who you really are. They left without another word, but I knew this wasn't over. That afternoon, I got a call from my bank. Miss Phillips, this is regarding your mother's account. We've had some inquiries about potential financial elder abuse. We're going to need you to come in and provide documentation for the recent large withdrawals. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The war was just beginning. Moving day arrived with the kind of crisp autumn morning that Mum used to love. I packed her belongings carefully, photo albums, her favourite sweater, the small watercolour set she hadn't touched in years, but still asked about sometimes. "Where are we going?" Mum asked for the 10th time as I folded her clothes into suitcases. "Somewhere beautiful. You'll like it there." "Will there be flowers?" "Lots of flowers." Sunrise Manor looked even more impressive in person than in the brochures. The lobby had marble floors and fresh orchids on every table. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. It smelled like vanilla and hope instead of disinfectant and despair. Tricia met us at the entrance with a warm smile and a wheelchair decorated with ribbons. "Welcome home, Mrs. Phillips," she said, kneeling beside Mom. "I'm Tricia. I'm going to help you get settled." Mum looked around with wide eyes. "It's like a palace." "It's your palace now." Mum's room was on the 2nd floor with a view of the gardens. Afternoon sunlight streamed through French doors that opened onto a small balcony. The furniture was elegant but comfortable, nothing institutional about it. "This is beautiful," I whispered to Tricia as we watched Mum explore her new space. "She'll have a care team of 4 nurses rotating shifts. Dr. Martinez has already coordinated her medical care with our staff physician. And look!" Tricia opened a closet to reveal an easel and art supplies. "I remembered you mentioned she used to paint." "Thank you." "Debbie," Mum called from the balcony, "come see the flowers." I joined her outside, where she was pointing at the garden below. Residents walked along winding paths, some with family members, others with staff. Everyone looked peaceful, content. "It's perfect, Mom." "Are you sure I can afford this?" "Don't worry about money, just enjoy it." That evening, I drove home to an empty house that felt like a tomb. For the first time in 10 years, I didn't have to check on Mom every few hours, didn't have to worry about medications or meals or whether she'd wander off in the night. The silence was deafening. My phone rang, Jordan's name on the screen. "How did it go?" "She loves it. The place is incredible." "And how are you?" I looked around the empty living room, at the chair where Mum used to sit, at the TV still tuned to her favourite channel. "I don't know. Want me to come over?" "Actually, yes." Jordan arrived with wine and takeout from our favourite Thai place. We sat on the couch, eating pad Thai and drinking too much Chardonnay. "So what's next?" she asked. "I visit Mum every day, make sure she's happy, fight off Talia's lawyers." "And what about you? What do you want to do with your life now?" The question caught me off guard. "I haven't thought about it." "Maybe you should. You're 38, Debbie. You could go back to school, travel, date." "I don't know how to do any of those things anymore." "You'll figure it out." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check your email. Willow." I opened my laptop and found a message from my niece with a video attachment. The subject line read, "You need to see this." The video was shaky, clearly shot on a phone from behind a partially closed door. I could hear Talia and Drake arguing in their kitchen. "This is insane," Drake was saying. "She's going to spend everything, Talia." "I know that. Do you? Because we're talking about millions of dollars. Willow's college fund, our retirement, the house in the Hamptons we wanted to buy. You think I don't know what's at stake? Then do something about it. Get another lawyer. Challenge her competency. Something." I tried. Pablo says there's nothing we can do as long as she has medical power of attorney. Then we need to prove she's not competent to make these decisions. She's clearly having some kind of breakdown. How do we prove that? Document everything, her behaviour, her spending patterns, her isolation. Build a case that she's mentally unstable. Talia's voice was cold, calculating. "And if that doesn't work, then we wait. Your mother can't live forever, and when she's gone, we contest the will, claim undue influence, diminished capacity, whatever it takes. What about Willow? She's been asking questions. Willow will understand when she's older, when she realizes what her aunt cost her. The video ended. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. What is it? Jordan asked. I turned the laptop toward her and replayed the video. Her face darkened as she watched. They're planning to destroy you. They're planning to try. Debbie, this is serious. They're talking about having you declared incompetent. Let them try. I have documentation for every penny I've spent. Every decision I've made has been in Mum's best interest. But if they can convince a judge that you're having a breakdown, then I'll fight them, just like I fought them before. My phone rang, Willow's name this time. Did you watch it? She asked without preamble. Yes. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry about my parents. This isn't your fault. I recorded it because I thought you should know what they're planning. They don't think I understand, but I do. They care more about money than about Grandma. What are you going to do? I'm going to stay with my friend Sarah for a while. I can't be in the same house with them right now. Willow, you don't have to choose sides. Yes, I do, and I choose you. After she hung up, Jordan and I sat in silence for a long time. They're going to make your life hell, she said finally. They're going to try. Are you ready for that? I thought about Mum in her beautiful room, surrounded by flowers and kindness. I thought about the look on her face when she saw the gardens, the way she'd smiled when the nurse brought her tea in a real china cup instead of a plastic mug. I'm ready. Even if it costs you everything. It already has. But for the first time in years, I'm not afraid of losing anything else. The next morning, I drove to Sunrise Manor for my first official visit. Mum was in the art room, holding a paintbrush for the first time in months. Her watercolour was simple, just blue sky and yellow flowers, but her face was peaceful, focused. Hi, Mum. She looked up and smiled. Debbie, look what I made. It's beautiful. The nice lady said I could paint every day if I wanted to. Would you like that? Very much. I sat beside her and watched her work, adding careful strokes of green to the flower stems. For this moment, she was happy. She was safe. She was loved. Whatever Talia and Drake were planning, whatever hell they were about to unleash, it was worth it for this. My phone buzzed with a text from Pablo. We need to schedule a meeting. There are concerns about your recent decisions regarding your mother's care. I deleted the message without reading it twice. Let them come. I was ready for war. The competency hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in November. Pablo had filed a petition claiming I was suffering from caregiver burnout syndrome and making irrational financial decisions that endangered my mother's welfare. I sat in the same courtroom where I'd won the guardianship battle, but this time felt different. Pablo had witnesses, bank officials, a psychiatrist who'd never met me, even Mrs. Henderson from next door with her notebook of complaints. Your Honour, Pablo began, we're here because Deborah Phillips has spent nearly $300,000 in 6 months on unnecessary luxury care while isolating herself from family and friends. This is not the behaviour of a rational caregiver. Judge Jackson looked older, more tired than before. Miss Phillips, you're representing yourself again? Yes, Your Honour. And you understand the seriousness of these allegations? I do. Pablo called his first witness, Dr. Richard Steinberg, a psychiatrist who specialised in caregiver psychology. In your professional opinion, Doctor, what are the signs of caregiver burnout? Social isolation, obsessive behaviour regarding the patient's care, and often irrational financial decisions driven by guilt or a need to prove one's devotion. And based on the evidence presented, do you see these patterns in Miss Phillips' behaviour? Absolutely. The excessive spending, the refusal to accept help from family members, the complete abandonment of her own life, these are textbook symptoms. My court-appointed attorney, a different tired-looking woman named Lisa, did her best on cross-examination, but Dr. Steinberg was polished, professional, convincing. Then Pablo called Talia to the stand. "Mrs. Carter, can you describe your sister's behavior over the past few months?" "She's become increasingly paranoid and hostile. She refuses to discuss our mother's care rationally. When I tried to suggest more affordable options, she accused me of wanting our mother to die." And her spending patterns?" "Reckless. She's paying for services our mother doesn't need, can't even appreciate in her condition. It's like she's trying to buy absolution for something." "In your opinion, is your sister acting in your mother's best interests?" "I think she's acting out of guilt and fear. She's spent so many years defining herself as our mother's caregiver that she can't imagine any other identity. So she's spending everything to prove she's the good daughter." Pablo nodded sympathetically. "No further questions?" Lisa stood for cross-examination. "Mrs. Carter, how many times did you visit your mother in the year before she moved to Sunrise Manor?" "That's not relevant. How many times?" "Once, maybe twice." "And how many times have you visited her at Sunrise Manor?" Talia's jaw tightened. "I've been busy with legal proceedings." 0 times. Is that correct?" "I've been trying to protect her financial interests." 0 times, Lisa repeated. "Your Honour, I'd like to call a witness." "Proceed. I call Willow Carter." Talia went pale. "Your Honour, she's a minor." "She's 16 and capable of testifying," Judge Jackson said. "I'll allow it." Willow walked to the witness stand with her chin up, looking more like a woman than a girl. She'd been staying with Jordan for the past month after her parents tried to force her to testify against me. "Willow, you've spent time with both your aunt and your grandmother recently?" "Yes. Can you describe your grandmother's condition at Sunrise Manor?" "She's happier than I've seen her in years. She paints every day. She has friends. She smiles. The nurses know she likes her tea with honey and that she gets scared during thunderstorms. They treat her like a person, not a patient." "And your aunt's behaviour?" "Aunt Debbie visits every single day. She brings flowers from Grandma's old garden, reads to her, helps her with art projects. She's not obsessed or crazy. She's loving." "What about your mother's involvement?" Willow looked directly at Talia. "My mother hasn't visited Grandma once since she moved. She's too busy with lawyers and bank statements to actually spend time with her." "Objection," Pablo said. "The witness is clearly biased." "Overruled," Judge Jackson said quietly. "Continue, Miss Carter." "My parents fight about money every night. They've already spent thousands on lawyers trying to get control of Grandma's assets. They don't care about her care. They care about their inheritance." "Thank you. No further questions?" Pablo tried to discredit Willow on cross-examination, but she was unshakable. Every question he asked, she answered with calm honesty that made Talia look worse. When it was my turn to testify, I kept it simple. "Your Honour, my mother has advanced dementia. She's scared, confused, and vulnerable. I've spent her money on the best possible care because that's what she would want. Every decision I've made has been about her dignity, her comfort, her happiness. And when the money runs out, then I'll figure out another way, but I won't let her spend her final years in a place where she's just a number. Even if it means there's no inheritance left for your family." "Especially then. My mother's life isn't a bank account waiting to be liquidated." Judge Jackson called a recess. When court resumed, his expression was grim. "I've reviewed all the evidence and testimony. This case comes down to a simple question. Is Miss Phillips acting in her mother's best interests, or is she acting out of her own psychological needs?" He paused, looking at each of us in turn. "I've seen the reports from Sunrise Manor. Mrs. Phillips is thriving there. Her medical care is excellent. Her quality of life has improved dramatically, and she's surrounded by compassionate professionals who know her as an individual." Talia's face was stone. I've also seen the financial records. Yes, Miss Phillips is spending her mother's money at an accelerated rate, but she's spending it on her mother's care, not on herself. There's no evidence of financial abuse or personal gain. Pablo was scribbling notes furiously. Most importantly, I've heard testimony about the family dynamics at play here. It's clear that Miss Phillips has been the primary caregiver for a decade, while other family members remain distant. Her decisions, while expensive, are consistent with someone who genuinely prioritizes her mother's welfare over financial considerations. Judge Jackson looked directly at me. Miss Phillips, you retain full authority as your mother's healthcare proxy. This petition is denied. The gavel came down with finality. In the hallway afterward, Talia approached me one last time. You won, she said quietly. Are you happy? I'm not happy or sad. I'm just tired. When the money's gone and you have nothing left, don't expect me to help. I never did. She walked away without another word, Drake trailing behind her like a shadow. Willow hugged me tightly. I'm proud of you, Aunt Debbie. I'm proud of you too. That took courage. Are you going to be okay? With Mum, I mean? Your mum made her choice. Now she has to live with it. That afternoon, I drove to Sunrise Manor. Mum was in the garden, sitting in her wheelchair with a blanket across her lap, watching the birds at the feeder. Hi, Mum. She looked up and smiled, that beautiful, uncomplicated smile that made everything worth it. Hello, sweetheart. Isn't it a lovely day? It is. The birds are so busy today, I think they're getting ready for winter. Probably. I sat on the bench beside her wheelchair and we watched the birds together in comfortable silence. A cardinal landed on the feeder, bright red against the grey November sky. Oh, look, Mum whispered. Isn't he beautiful? Yes, he is. She reached for my hand, her fingers thin and cold, but still strong enough to squeeze mine. I'm happy here, she said suddenly, her voice clearer than it had been in months. I'm glad. And I'm proud of you. You're a good daughter. You're a good mother. We sat there until the sun started to set, watching the birds and holding hands. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more legal battles, more financial stress, more difficult decisions. But right now, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. Mum was safe. She was loved. She was home. And that was enough.